Hey, what's up there, YouTube? This is No Budget Duelist bringing you the first episode of my new series called Rulings+Errata that you need to know. These are the kinds of things that you need to know if you're going to duel anywhere. These are just cards that you're going to see no matter where you go, no matter what you do, unless like you're just playing with like a couple friends and you don't have tons and tons of money. Which, even in that case, if you didn't have tons and tons of money, there's still this deck called Chaos Dragons that has rulings that you need to know about. Now, three kinds of things that I'm going to talk about today are mandatory and optional effects. All three of these apply heavily to monsters and a lot to monsters that you'll see around. And yeah, so let's dive right in. Three types of effects that I'm going to be talking about today are mandatory effects, like Sandgan, things that you need to do. That it says on the card you don't have an option, you have to do it. Things that are optional, but they don't miss timing because the one word at the beginning of that specific effect, if. And then cards that do miss timing but are also optional, that say when. Now, first one that I want to go over that's the easiest and most basic, the optional effect. Let me take it out of the sleeve, these cards out of the sleeve so that there's no glare. Is there still glare? It's not as bad. Okay. So, basically, when an effect is mandatory, it'll say something like, when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, this is just an example, select one monster with an attack of 1500 or less from your deck, show it to your opponent, then add it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Now, if you notice, it doesn't say you can anywhere. You know, whereas on Insector Dragonfly, the second effect is, if an equipped card is sent to your graveyard while equipped to this card, except during the damage step, you can special summon one Insector monster from your deck. Now notice it says you can't, but also the first word is if. Now, since Sandgan does not say you can, that means it's forced. Another card like this is Wind Up Zen Mains, for his effect that destroys him at the end of the turn. Now, if Zen Mains is the only card on the field at the end of the turn, and he has no more materials on him, he is forced to kill himself. So that's something to remember. That mandatory effects, no matter when they meet the requirements to activate, as soon as the chain that they're in is over, or the action that put them where they need to be, that put the game in the right state where their effect can activate, such as Sandgan going to the graveyard, or Zen Mains being face up on the field during the end phase that it would have been destroyed, but it prevented its own destruction with its own effect, then no matter what, the effect has to activate, and there's nothing that can really get in the way of that, besides putting the card in a position where it's no longer able to activate its effect, like Sandgan, instead of going to the graveyard, being banished, or Zen Mains no longer being faced up on the field during the end phase. Now next are the effects that are optional but do not miss timing. Like Dragonfly says the word if at the beginning of its effect. Now if a card says if, another set of examples are the Vylon tuners that all equip themselves to monsters. Since technically Synchro Summoning doesn't start a chain, but it's still performing an action, and something needs to be done, and they're getting sent to the graveyard. Once that's all done, the if effect on the card can still activate, because it just says if, not when. There's not a specific moment in time it has to activate, but it has to activate before the next action. It has to be the next action after whatever chain or group of actions is being performed, or else then it doesn't get its effect. But once the chain that it meets the requirement in is finished, then it can activate its effect. Like if Dragonfly equips itself with Hornet, and then takes off Hornet to pop a card on the field, you know, you would think that since it's part of the cost, if Dragonfly said when in its effect, and you sent Hornet as to the graveyard for the cost of its effect, Dragonfly would not get its effect. But since it says if and it doesn't require that specific moment in time when the card is taken, is when the equipped card is taken off, and it just happens as soon as whatever chain it's part of is over. It still gets its effect, and you still get to summon your Centipede. Now, onto the card. Now onto the effect type that misses timing, like Light Pulsar Dragon. It says, for the effect that specifically misses timing, when this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one level 5 or higher Dark Dragon type monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. Since it says when it's sent to the graveyard, meaning if the last thing that happened in the duel, the last action that was performed, was sending Light Pulsar Dragon to the graveyard from the field, then it can activate its effect. But if there's something like Soul Taker, which is the tech card that somebody would use specifically against the Light Pulsar Dragon, since Soul Taker destroys the monster, then it gives your opponent 1,000 life points. Since when Light Pulsar is trying to activate its effect, in that one little frame of time that Light Pulsar can activate its effect, you're getting life points. So since your opponent was smart and circumvented your monster's effect, now you don't get your summon out. So those are just little things to remember. How to beat Light Pulsar, why Inzectors are broken, and, you know, I think that Zen Mains would have been a better example if I had the card, but I don't have it, but I did give you that example. Just thought I'd let you know that, because there are people on DN that try to rule shark people, there are people at tournaments that try to rule shark you, so just to let you know, Dragonfly, his effect always comes out as soon as the chain is done. That's what he does. Light Pulsar, if you can activate an effect while his effect is trying to activate. So, hope you liked the video, YouTube. Remember to like, rate, comment, subscribe, and cancel.